What's up, beautiful people? Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. It doesn't matter what time it is. Just know today is the day that the Lord has made, and I will rejoice and be glad in it. Why? Because as always, God is good and He's good all the time. Duh. I just noticed this thing wasn't recording, so the recording sound's gonna be a little weird. It's because it's gonna be coming from the GoPro. Damn, that's like an hour. But so I've been heavily listening to prison stories, and I've always been attracted to discussions, talks, basically any rhetoric that circles freaking criminal justice matters, whether it's, wrongfully imprisonment, people giving their opinions on capital punishment, death penalty, the way that the court system worked, the relationships between the different entities amongst the criminal justice system. Like, all of that stuff has always fascinated me, and it makes sense because people would be surprised, but as a child I grew up persuaded by television. The propaganda that the government put forth kind of worked on me, and I say kinda because God had plans, you see, that man just can't mess with. But the government puts all this, become a cop, fight crime, fight the criminals, we need more cops. And I originally wanted to be a lawyer. Well, it was between a lawyer and a doctor, but then I was like, a doctor is too much school, so no. Then I thought about lawyer, and I was like, oh, but that's a lot of school too. And then my dad, he kept saying, like, you should be a cop, you get some benefits, retire. Like, that was just his thing. Forget school, just get a decent enough job, something that you could retire on, get some benefits. Excuse me. And so my dad was kind of trying to push me to that avenue, but I had some aspirations towards law enforcement. It was mostly the SWAT team, because I was one of those that watched Law and Order and stuff like that, and I was just so mesmerized by the theatrics, the spectacle that the SWAT team brought. But that's because I had no exposure to that in real life. And now that I see the jump out squad in real life regularly in my community, and the trauma that they cause on everybody in the space, it's like, damn, I can't believe I wanted to be a part of that. But I originally wanted to be a police officer. I was so mesmerized by the spectacle. But then I knew that policing wasn't my thing, because policing to me just seemed so easy. It seemed like anybody can do, That's why I wanted to pursue law or even medicine, because I thought that I go and get into medicine, I was going to go and become a doctor. I wasn't going to become no nurse. If I'm going to go in, I'm going all the way in. And when I first wanted to get into law, or anything pertaining to criminal justice, it was mostly law. Like, I was very fascinated about lawyers, and not necessarily prosecutors, because I remember from little, I loved every aspect surrounding attorneys, especially when it came to defense attorneys. And I didn't know what I knew now, that there's a distinction between the two. And when it comes to crime control, the prosecutor is more the favor, where people kind of demonize the defense attorney and stuff, because they're like, you're letting away, you're helping get criminals freed from their punishment and back onto the streets. And it's just, if you really knew the details, the truth about the criminal justice system and you rid yourself of these fallacies that you've been programmed through television, media, you know, even the lies from your politicians, your local politicians' mouths, you'll be surprised what really goes on in the criminal justice system. And a lot of people are just, they're not privy to it. They're ignorant, not even on paper. And the crazy part about it, the way that the criminal justice system works in real life, like how it carries out its function, ain't even how it looks on paper. So if you look on written black letter law, that's literally what they call it, right? Black letter law. You'll see, oh, we have all these rights, and you think that this is how it's supposed to go, and, you know, pre-trial detention, you won't be sitting in prison, or excuse me, jail. You won't be held for, it feels like eternity, you know, awaiting pre-trial detention, even though you haven't even been brought before a judge to rule whether or not your arrest was, you know, legitimate. You never think that a person will be sitting in jail, unconvicted, never brought before a judge to rule on the legitimacy of their arrest, and they've been sitting there for over a year, when on paper it shows when you get arrested, they have about 48 hours to bring you before a judge so they can rule on the legitimacy of your arrest. And if, you know, this is a legitimate arrest, they decide whether they release you on their own recognizance or they're going to hold you in pretrial detention. But a lot of people are held in pretrial detention without any decision making on any judge's behalf. They're sitting in there just because they were arrested, and then they were brought there and then just been sitting there since. Because a lot of people don't even understand, and it took me to learn this later in life, that the criminal justice system don't even have the manpower and they don't have the funds to accommodate the workload that they put on themselves. They literally, through legislation, facilitates and carry out mass incarceration, but they don't have the capability to even deal with the caseloads they deal with. But they don't want to have the capability, because at the end of the day, these conviction rates that everybody love to talk about, like a lot of people love to say that when it comes to the federal, you know, court cases, oh, they have a high conviction rate, 99%. Well, if you look at your local prosecutor has about a 99% conviction rate, no matter where you are in the United States of America. Why? Because well over 95%, and that's me being generous, it's more like 98 and some change, but well over 95% of criminal convictions are established through plea bargains. What are plea bargains? People admitting guilt, taking a guilty plea, and then stripping the courts from actually doing the job that they are supposed to do, which is prove that you did what they are accusing you of beyond a reasonable doubt. You waive all your rights to an attorney, you waive your rights to face your accuser, you waive your rights to even look at the evidence, you waive your right to question, you know, the cross-examine. You waive all these rights. You waive the rights to a jury trial, and it's because of ignorance. A lot of us, not just ignorance, but fear. Fear and ignorance coerces us into taking guilty pleas, you see? But the system benefit off of this. This is why everything exists the way it does. But I didn't know this at first. It took me to go through life to get me on track, because like I said, I wanted to be a lawyer, but then I kind of changed my mind, and then I was just like, let my dad convince me to go this lazy route that I didn't want to take, and that's become a police officer, which anybody could become a police officer. All you need is a high school diploma. You don't need to make yourself competitive with having a degree, because at the end of the day, they don't want to promote all them people anyways. They want a bunch of foot patrol officers so they can send out to patrol these streets and do administrative work. It's very few that gets promoted, you know, especially when it comes to making lieutenant or captain, let alone sergeant, you know. So I almost started to, you know, feed that idea, and then I started going through stuff. I got arrested while I was in the military, and then when I got arrested, it's like the Lord opened my eyes, and this is what helped me decide what I want to do in life. This is what really made me decide I want to be a defense attorney, because I got to see, not even just through 6 years of acquiring college degrees, an associate's, a bachelor's, and a master's degree, all in criminal justice. So the associates and the bachelor's degree taught me the foundation of the criminal justice system, basically how it functions, from corrections to motherfucking patrol policing to motherfucking the court systems to juvenile, all around, right? To even the law side, constitutional law, judicial law, I mean, all that. And then the master's side, the graduate side, taught me to look and do my own research. So now I'm learning, you know, analytical skills when it comes to research. And now I'm learning through reading all these different research papers and trying to compile data, because I came up with my own, you know, to finish your master's degree, you had to write, it was like a thesis, you know, which is for PhDs, it's a dissertation, but it's basically this big old research paper that is at the end, and it basically, you choose what you want to write about. For me, I wanted to talk about immigration and how it ties into criminal justice. And so what I had to do was, I had to plan out the methodology. I had to operationalize my research by, you know, laying out what are the steps that I did to look for what, you know, how I sought after this information. What did I do? Did I do interviews? Did I look at pre-existing research? And then I read all this data and read all this data. I read hundreds and hundreds of peer-reviewed scholarly articles about different aspects, from racial discrimination to racial biases to disproportionate incarceration rates to mass incarceration, and how it ties into the 13th Amendment, and how the 13th Amendment never abolished slavery, but it extended it under a new guise. It took me to learn all this stuff through all this reading, from books that was, you know, mandatory reading material, to the papers that I sought after myself, or even the articles that were provided to us. And I learned all this stuff. And then I thought back on the first time I got arrested, and I'm like, damn, how the freak I get charged with endangering the life of an elderly, and I'm looking at $100,000 bond, and I ain't never been convicted of a crime before in my life. This is the first time I've ever been arrested. Then I when I realized, like, damn, this is cruel. This could be considered cruel and unusual punishment. You know, you violating my rights. Not even just that, but like, the 14th Amendment protects me from, you know, incarceration without due process. So why the freak do I have to pay y'all bail bond if you don't even have no reason to even hold me in here? Then the crazy part about it, that no charges were even filed against me. So I sat in jail for 12 hours and paid 10% of $100,000 bail bond for absolutely no reason, because there was no charges filed against me. There was no case. So you know, if I didn't pay that bail, though, only the Lord knows how long I would have been sitting in there. Even though by law, they got about 48 hours to bring you before a judge so they can rule on whether or not you're arrested. But they don't have the manpower. They arrest way too many people. Then they got judges and stuff. And I encourage you to look at your local municipal judge count, prosecutor count, whether it's city, county, supreme. You count them. You got less than what? Depending on how big your city is, in Rochester, it's about 200,000 people. We got less than 20 people in every position, holding that position, expected to govern over 200,000 people. Does that make sense to you? It's the same thing with the police. The police we have less than 1,000 police officers here, yet RPD is supposed to police all 210,000 Rochester residents. And you see why plea bargains plays a major role. So it took me to not only go through my personal experiences, because I ended up arrested 2+ times after that, and then talking to other people and seeing about their experiences. It's like, damn, we all got the same story. Watching stuff on YouTube, listening to different stories, it's like, damn, we have the same story. And the thing is that I want to come and tell you that I want to be real with you. The military is prison. People don't like to acknowledge it, but it is prison. And to be honest, it's by the grace of God that I am not incarcerated. Because a lot of the things that I was accused of doing, I was charged of, there are people sitting in there convicted of it. There's people who have veteran status background still sitting in there. There's people who own property and assets still sitting in there. You see what I'm saying? These are people that had, you know, decent enough lives, but all it takes is to get sucked into the criminal justice system. The military and the criminal justice system is the same. And why I say that? Because one, people don't even realize, but the military, like the carceral system, is a total institution. I call the police asset protection all the time, and it's because if you really look at the onset of policing, from when it started off as just a fire watch, where that was a position that was held by criminals. That was their punishment, to sit on fire watch and protect the assets and properties of the wealthy. And if they didn't do right by them, they will be harshly penalized, flogged, and all types of stuff. But then they see that, oh my goodness, these criminalistic people that we got policing and watching our stuff, they're gambling, engaging in prostitution, they assaulting people, they murdering people. So we have to centralize them. We have to make them be presented as more of a, you know, a civilized establishment. So then the transition from, you know, Shia Reeves and to what we see policing as now, but it was started off with corrupted individuals holding those positions, and then people act like these positions aren't going to still be held by corruption. Like corruption just disappeared because they wearing uniforms because they have to take a standardized test to even get the job. And then it's so interesting because I tell people all the time, look at the way that life is set up. The police protect the rich. There's this theory called theory of law, and it states that basically that the law goes down, not up. Now try this. A poor person ends up in a situation, say for instance a working class person who's making less than $50,000 a year, ends up getting into an altercation to where they're assaulted by someone making $120,000 a year. The person hits them back in self-defense, the cops come. The person making less than $50,000 a year gets arrested, even though they the one that assaulted them. Because the law, based on the theory of law, it goes down, not up. The person at the bottom of the totem pole, that's the one that's going to feel the wrath of the law, not the richer person. This was evident in my own situation, where I was accused, and you can look back at a video that's on my Obdurately Tee platform, where I talked about my arrest in 2021. And it was these individuals, they would be considered working class. Like these people, I don't even think they have a high school diploma. They look like they were raised, you know, impoverished, just like me. But the only difference is that my life had a different, you know, course of action towards the end, to where I ended up buying my house. I own my house. I didn't rent. They was renting out this tiny apartment. You know, they was stealing cars for transportation. My wife and I own nice cars. We pay for our own stuff. You see, I served in the military. We have money in the bank. And so they thought that the law was going to work in their favor, because they're like, oh, she did this and they lied. She tried to, you know, intimidate us with her weapon. She's not licensed to carry. Whole time I'm licensed to carry. But I got dragged through the system. I got, you know, I endured excessive force by the police, very excessive force. And then to the point where I'm even asking them, am I under arrest? They telling me no, but then they telling me to stop resisting. What am I resisting? Assault, you know? But long story short, I remember before anything even on assault, to when they called the people, I told them, if y'all call the people, the likelihood of anything ever happening to me is slim to nothing, because of the difference in our social status. And it came to be true. When I was talking to my lawyer, and I had a public defender, I didn't even pay for no defense attorney, because I'm like, why would I waste money on something that a public defender could do? So anyways, they all about, you know, about the same, because you have to have a good relationship, good rapport with these people to get good service. So my public defender is telling me, well, I don't see this going anywhere because you've never been arrested before. You only have one, little discrepancy on your record. And I pled guilty to assault and harassment when I was 17 after I fought this girl who pressed charges against me, those very charges. And I didn't know I could fight them. They never even told us that we were eligible for a public defender. So my dad, he just told me, like, T, just to speed everything up, just plead guilty. And so I pled guilty to harassment and assault, and it's a violation on my record. But aside from that, that's literally it. There's nothing else except arrests. I have nothing else. So there's that too. 17, yeah. For fighting a girl who was attempted to bully me, But anyways, so I'm sitting here and I'm realizing, like, okay, the system is not what we think it to be. Because at the end of the day, it's like these individuals, you are just a person. You process through there. And they don't have the manpower. They don't have the ability to really efficiently do their job. So that's why they encourage you to take guilty pleas, because it benefits everybody. Especially if you got a public defender, because one public defender oversees about 100 cases by themselves. So they try to hurry up and get you off their docket so they can move on to the next one. That's why they tell you, take your guilty plea. Hurry up. They even tell you, I don't get paid enough for this. My lawyer told me that. I don't get paid enough for this. So this is why I say, for my experiences combined with my education, it made me realize, like, damn, the system is really as jacked up as people say it is. That I hear in all these testimonial stories and stuff. And then when I look back at my life in the military, I'm like, damn, the military wasn't much different. It's a total institution. You can't leave. If I try to run away, they sitting here deeming me AWOL. They coming for me just like them. You can't leave. I know of people, I remember, and I love telling people this story because I always ask people, it really hurts me when people be like, thank you for your service. I always wonder, why the freak do you thank me for my service? You don't even know what I endured. You know what I'm saying? And I feel like it's a slap to the face because you thanking me for all the bull crap that I went through. Right? And you ain't out here thanking the incarcerated for their service. Think about it. The military and the carceral system is the same. When you want to know how long somebody spent incarcerated, what do you say? How long did you serve? When you want to know how long somebody was in the military, what do you ask them? How long did you serve? They're both total institutions. They both underpay their people for labor. In fact, I'll give you one another. In the military, I got so depressed. And the depression started at boot camp. Because that, like I tell people, I was 17 when I joined the military. I was 17 years old. I turned 18 in boot camp a month in. Went to boot camp August 23rd. I turned 18 September 22nd, 2010. About a month later. When I was in boot camp, just like I hear the stories in prison, how when you come in there, they do everything in their power to strip you of your individuality. The same thing happens when you go to the military. They strip you of any humanity that you think that you have, any individuality, and then to add to it, not only do they do it to the other recruits, but they pit y'all against each other so that you can't even rely on anybody for support, comfort. You literally just go through all that turmoil, all the name calling, all that harsh training, those conditions you subjected to, depending on what era you were in, the abuse. Because people act like people ain't getting abused in the motherfucking military. Yes, the freak they were. You hear me? I even tell people, you're more likely to lose a loved one in the military to suicide and or even homicide. It just depends on where they at. In garrison, is more likely suicide. In the field, more likely homicide. Different. Same thing in the carceral system. People feel so defeated. They feel trapped. I can't get out of here. I'm stuck here. I don't have no support system. I can't really tell my family about this because they don't know. They don't understand any of this. And they take their own lives or they kill each other because it's not as tight-knit as you think. Tell people I learned the isms. I hear a lot of time people talking about ain't no racism in the military. Nigga, what? Where did this whole concept of green come from? Because niggas will sit here and say that you green. We all green in the military, but then they fail to mention the colorism aspect, because colorism is attached to racism. People that look like me, they call dark green. People who look like my wife, they call light green. If the military isn't racist, why are you calling us dark and light green? It's just like we all humans, but some get called white, some get called Chinese, some get called Latino, some get called black. It all boils down to racism. In the military, it's racially divided as it is in prison. Yeah, there is some mixing and mingling, but the mixing and mingling is usually based on your geographic location. So if you one of them like white boys or those Latino boys, that like especially the white boys from like places like New York, New Jersey, and they from the poor parts of those places, but they're big, you know, metropolitan cities, then the likelihood of the white boys being around a bunch of other white boys is kind of slim. But they hung out with a bunch of black kids, especially when it came to school. When it came to, you know, they was hanging out with black kids. So yeah, you might see some white boys hanging out with black kids and Latinos but for the most part, the Latinos hung out with the Latinos, the Asians hung out with the Asians, the black people hung out with the Asians. The black people, I was even those people that flocked to black people. But look at me, married to a Mexican. But the majority of my community were black. It was definitely racially divided. Just like the military, or just like the carceral system. In the carceral system, they play FF games. They play mind games so they can make you feel defeated, so they can contribute to that, you know, stripping you of your individuality. The same thing they do in the military. And it starts in boot camp, because I remember most of my drill instructors, I ain't had no black drill instructors. All my drill instructors were predominantly white and Asian. I had a senior drill instructor named Staff Sergeant Soper. She was, what, Korean? I had drill instructor Sergeant May. I'm not 100% sure what she was, but she was one of them brown skin, you know, Asian folks. So I'm assuming maybe Filipino or something like that. And then, or maybe Cambodian, I don't know, but she was more brown. Then we ended up with this little boy looking woman, Sergeant Stewart. She could have been Korean, she could be Vietnamese. I'm pretty sure, I feel like she might have been Vietnamese, but I'm not 100% sure. And then the rest were white, Sergeant Dunn and Sergeant Jekyll. And people say here ain't no racial. In boot camp, the part of them trying to strip you of who you are, they do a lot of berating and name calling, right? So we're women, and this at the time when it was split. So females was in the 4th Battalion on camp, on Paris Island. And so you didn't really interact with dudes like that. You ain't see them like that, unless every now and then you might end up with a male instructor for whatever specific reason. But most of the time, all of our interactions were with females. And they would sit here and call us all types of names. I mean, I remember my senior drill instructors told me to my face, she said, when you get in the military, you're gonna have about 3 different kids try to put me off as having all these baby daddies. Mind you, she said all this, and she already had her first kid and no active baby daddy. Mind you, she had a half black kid. This is why I'm a big proponent when I tell people sucking on and allowing, you know, black people phallus into their bodies, or, you know, getting up with black women, that don't mean squat. Procreating with black people don't mean nothing. Because the stuff that she said, it was mind-blowing to me that this heifer gave birth to a half black baby. in addition to that, she used to call me nappy-headed hoe. I remember this one time, so if anybody knew about our hair, you got to put your hair in a bun. So we put it in a ponytail. We'll take our stocking, cut a hole at the toes, roll the stocking up until like this little donut, slide it onto the ponytail, and then pull the hair over the donut, spread it out, and then put a rubber band over it. Wrap the excess hair around and secure that with a rubber band. Boom, that's you do. Now, as a person with curly hair like mine, anybody knows when that humidity kicks in, it's wraps. This lady never failed to call us the black females nappy-headed on some degrading tone. Because one, anybody calling me nappy-headed, I want to slap you unless it's black. It's like the nigga word. Don't say nothing to me that niggas said in the past that was viewed as like, you know, racial or a slur or anything that's supposed to be, you know, condescending. I don't want to hear it come out your mouth, because that joint made me want to put hands on you. But she used to call us nappy-headed hoes, all types of stuff. Then one day, they PT'ing me bad. It's hot. My hair is sweating. I'm sweating. Hair coming out. You can see my sock bun. You can see my sock and everything. My hair pretty much done rolled up and shrunk because it's curly. It done got wet and it's hot. I hear this heifer over here cracking jokes with the other Asian lady, Sergeant May, talking about some, look at her hair. Her hair over there look like a cottontail, and they over here cracking up. And then she go back to saying the nappy comments. So I'm just adding all this up. And the reason why I say it's by the grace of God that I'm not incarcerated is because when I hear some of these stories about some of the stuff that people endured in their childhood that kind of led them to, you know, have a quick temper, you know, volatile or callous, you know, demeanor, I truly thank God that, you know, it was different for me, because I know I could have ended up either incarcerated or dead, because even the Bible says that that's all that happens with, you know, quick-tempered people, foolish people, death, you know. And but I developed this very quick-tempered, you know, callous demeanor that came from childhood, you know. And then I love my parents. However, I was raised in an authoritarian household, and so whoopings, you get a whooping just for waking up the wrong way, I guess. I don't know. And so I got a lot of whoopings, and a lot of them, some of them were extreme to my perception, you know. To the point where I remember this one time, well, it ain't no one time, it was like towards the end, right when I was about to join the military. I was still getting whoopings at 16, 17. And I remember the last time I had got a whooping, it was the last time I got a whooping, because my dad, I feel like he took everything in his power to hit me with that liquor stick in my butt. You could hear it like cutting through the air, and then it hits my butt. You don't hear anything except the impact that the liquor stick made to my butt, the paddle. He goes again, he hits the high part of my butt. I flinch a little, not flinch, but I kind of like twitch a little bit, because it's like, all right, that hurt a little bit, but now you're just making me madder. And then he hit me one more time, and then I think he realized, like, okay, this is done. And that was the last time I had got a whooping. Went off into the military with this calloused mindset. Mind you, I didn't talk to people. I stayed to myself. So I never was the type of person that developed skills on, you know, how to talk to people and talk my way out of stuff. Oh, let's just talk about it. I wasn't those, like, if I had a problem, I immediately resorted to hands. Let's fight. Even though I didn't get into fights like that a lot growing up, I got into a couple of tussles, but by the time I went into the military, I was on that, like, can't nobody tell me nothing. I'm grown, I'm on my own. Y'all niggas ain't my daddy, so you put your hands on me, I'm hurting you. Like, that was the mentality I was in. And so now I'm in the military, these people saying all this wild stuff to me, so I'm just tallying up. I'm like, okay, This ain't the straw that broke the camel back today, but I'm gonna save this. I'm gonna just tally it up. And so I remember it got to the point where one day they was like PTing me, and I just stopped. They got this IT thing, it's intense training, and it's like this high intensity short intervals, or high intensity interval training, but it's used as discipline. And at first I used to be like, oh, I'm tired, you know, but because I was like slowly just getting angry from, or not slowly, but I was gradually getting more and more angry from all the things that they've been saying and doing to me. And then I'm carrying this stuff over from, you know, stuff from before I even got here, because it's like these people acting like they stripping you of your individuality. Are you really? Because I just brought all that stuff with me, and it's about to explode on you. And so they used to IT me, and I just stopped working out, and they was like, no, you got to get back. And I'll just stop. And so we get back to the barracks, because they saw I wasn't working out. You can't make me do anything. And I learned real quick that they get real close to your face, spitting. Is it your smell? I'm in my voice. They doing all this screaming and spitting in your face. These theatricals running up and down Foot Lockers. They look like maniacs. But I was like, I grew up in this. My mom epitomized, I don't need a microphone. She loud as heck. And my dad, that man always was yelling. Every time he yelled at you, was always yelling, tapping on your head, you know. It was a lot. Then I grew up in a house with a lot of people, so it was always loud. So noise, that's not scary. Where for a lot of other girls, that noise was just enough, because it intimidated them enough that there was girls, I'm 17, 18, there's girls 19, 20, sitting here scared to go to the jewelry shop, because when you had to use the bathroom, you had to go knock on the door. Whoever in there, see your drill instructor, or who, if it's your DI, drill instructor, staff sergeant, done, recruit, you got to go through this whole little thing just to say, has a request to go to the head. Like, you can't say go to the bathroom, because if you say go to the bathroom, they keep sending you back. Nope, you ain't going, because you ain't say it right. So you do this enough, them girls started peeing on themselves. And I'm just sitting here like, you nasty bras. I would just get up and go pee on myself, and then just, you got all that yelling in your face. I would just go to the bathroom. I ain't peeing on myself. I'd rather just get yelled at, because they can't touch me. I learned real quick, they can't touch me. They doing all these theatrics, but they ain't put their hands on me. But them girls was terrified. So I remember one day, because they used to play the games, like, oh, Grace, if she better than you, she didn't have the PT. Y'all saw her. And they play you against each other. And there was another time they played us against each other, just like they do in the carceral system, when they play the inmates against each other. They pit the inmates against each other. They really want you to feel like you ain't nothing. You ain't got nobody to rely on. The same people that you think you trust, and they snitching you out, because this is the same environment in the military. They create this environment where it's like, you ain't safe unless you keep it all in here. So they had this thing. They wanted to give this accolade to one of the most achieved female recruits or something like that. And they asked everybody, you know, who all do y'all vote for? And there was this, everybody kept voting for this little Asian girl named Baze. I think she was I could be wrong. I remember her being an orphan, but she may not have been an orphan. But this girl named Baze, I couldn't stand her, because she was one of our, like, you have your little squads, and then there's the leader, and then there's the guide. She went between being the guide to the squad. I think it was like first squad's team leader or whatever the freak. I forget now, but she was one of them. Like a teacher's pet, you know? On top of the fact that the senior drill instructor is Asian, the heavy is Asian. So if you look, and then the rest of the drill instructors were white. We only had one black girl up there. Her name is Taylor, and she's one of them, you know, she a Kisei. If I'm not mistaken, I think she might still be in the military, because I don't know if I mentioned here, but in order to make it in the military, it's like in the carceral system, you have to conform to the environment you are in. And so what they call it in the military is you got to take the green weenie. You have to submit, spread your legs, and let them bust up in you. And that's how you make it to retirement. You don't make it to retirement being an individual. You don't make it to retirement being an independent thinker. You don't make it to retirement challenging status quo. You don't make it to retirement questioning aspects, even the stuff that seems dangerous, that don't make no sense. You don't make it there. You make it being yes'ems. Yes'em, yes'em, yes'em. And I think that worked out for her, because if I'm not mistaken, she was from one of them southern states. And I think that kind of works with them a little bit better, because they have that relationship with the white people where it's like they expect that. Yes'em. Up here in New York, it's like ain't nobody yes'em no white person. Oh, so anyway, y'all forgive me, I'm coming off a cold. I had a fever over the weekend. But yeah, so they was like, who y'all vote for? And I was so naive. I put this girl, and I'm not naive because of who I put. I'm naive because I thought that, you know, it wasn't a requirement that you put your name on the paper so they knew who you were and what you vote, who you vote for. But I put my name because I put this person, and the person I put on there I knew was gonna blow their mind. It's this girl, her name at the time was Fowler. She was known for stealing peanut butter from the chow hall. Now that's another thing I think is crazy, is that the language is the same. They call their cafeteria in the carceral system the chow hall. What do we call it in the military? The chow hall. What do you call glasses in the carceral system? Portholes. What do you call them in the military? The language is almost identical. But anyways, just like people could get in trouble for stealing food in the carceral system, homie, she was stealing peanut butter. She wasn't a bad person. She was just always hungry. We all was hungry. But she was just one of those people that she stole peanut butter. Every time she went to chow hall, she'll sneak some peanut butter and she'll eat it. And the only reason why the DIs knew, because they didn't have cameras. They didn't have anything. They have beat us up and berated us, called us hoes, sluts, everything but a child of God. Everything but fearfully and wonderfully made. Everything but reciting that I made in his image, God's image. You see, they call you everything unholy. And so, like I tell you, they pit everybody against each other. So you think, okay, you eating, nobody's saying nothing, everybody looks sleep. There's somebody faking sleep, or somebody faking like they writing a letter, and they watching you, and they documenting, and they want to get in good with the senior drill instructor. They want to get in good, so they go and snitch. And then they snitch, and that's how stuff gets going. And so they pit each other. So this girl developed a terrible representation because of the peanut butter stealing, and everybody kept snitching on her, except me and a few others, but for the most part, people kept snitching on her. So then, it's crazy because, so they send this paper around. I write Fowler on there about, like, this is who I think should get this thing. So this raggedy drill instructor is Staff Sergeant Soper, that Vietnamese woman with a half black baby that has very, very skewed perceptions on black people, from calling me nappy-headed hoe. Mind you, she's had more sex than I went in there. A virgin came out. Not damn penis on me. To this day, ain't a penis been inside me. But according to her, I'm a hoe. But we was recruits, and we was hearing rumors that she was sleeping with other DIs on Paris Island. That's how it's like the carceral system. Them guards be doing some strange things, and the people in there, whatever they want to call them, inmates, residents, they hear and know about it. Everybody knows everybody's business. Same thing in the military. So they that lady, she reads my paper out loud, and she's like, oh, can y'all believe this? Grayson wanted to take the, I forget what the stupid achievement award was called. It was like Dolly something, Dolly, I don't know, Dolly Marine. I don't forgot now. But she want to take this from you hardworking recruits, and she wants to give it to Fowler, the peanut butter stealer. And then all of them looking at me with the, Mind you, I'm one of the youngest people in here. I literally just turned 18. The youngest people in here. And I got these, some of these heifers was like 25, 26, looking at me like, Tierra. I'm about to say Tierra. Grayson. The audacity. Fowler. But I put my name because I thought that they was going to give me an opportunity to say why. They ain't even give me an opportunity to say why. And the reason why I put her name, because I saw the change that she made. Even though she was accused of stealing peanut butter, she had went through a period where she didn't steal any peanut butter. She had a pretty decent PFT, CFT score. She was like in really good shape. She was, if I'm not mistaken, I think she might have been one of them like country hardworking, you know, she probably would have been, honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if her daddy didn't have any sons. He had her, because she reminded me of them girls that like, they just, she reminded me of myself. She ain't your typical female, you know. She's athletic. She wasn't in bad shape, you know, whatever. But they was just so pissy because I voted for Fowler, the peanut butter stealer. And then they just became, oh, Grayson want to take from you. And then I was just, you know, turning them even further against me, to the point where now we fast forward, because this was shortly after the Fowler thing. The senior drill instructor, I don't know where the freak she was at, but the Sergeant Stewart lady, she gets all up in my face and she spitting, tapping me in my chest like this, little. Like, she's so short, I literally could have just put my nipple in her mouth, because that's how small she was to me. The lady was little. She literally was perfect height for me to just stick teeth them out, you know? And she tapping me on my shoulder, spitting, doing all that psycho stuff that them drill instructors do. Oh my God, you motherfucker, you are a disgrace. You ain't worth nothing. You ain't worth nothing. But before I got here, my drill instructor disappears. Now, this is a lady who I've been telling you, I've been tallying everything that they've been doing and saying to me. It's just these things never pushed me, you know, because it bothered me, but I was like, given the right opportunity, I'm putting you to sleep. So I'll never forget, Staff Sergeant Soper, before she left, before Sergeant Stewart got in my face acting a dang fool, this broad, Staff Sergeant Soper, she over here pissed because I put Fowler's name on the paper. She's going in on me, calling me a woog, which is basically the name that they called females, that they wanted to say that you ain't nothing but, you know, promiscuous, you just letting dudes dump in you, like you sleeping around with everybody. She called me a walking mattress. That's what she said. I was going to be a baby mama of all these kids and all this, that, and the third. And I'm just sitting here at attention, just listening to this stupid broad insult me. And she said some other things, but then she got to my mama. And she was like, that's why your mama don't love you. And then she got my attention. And then she got to my daddy. Now, this is dangerous because at this time, I'm a daddy's girl, okay? At this time, I'm a daddy's girl. My dad couldn't have done no wrong. You could have told me you done seen him doing the worst, the most heinous of heinous. And I will fight to death because I was daddy's girl. No, not my daddy. No, not my daddy. So I'm sitting here. These motherfucking squirrels. Get your butt on. I ain't about to feed you. But anyway. So I'm like, I know she ain't talking about my daddy. She was like, that's why your daddy don't love you. Then I'm pretty sure she tried to hit me with some like you don't even know who your dad is type of thing. Man, I lost it. I started crying. And I knew I knew it was bad because I started making a noise. I was fuming. And I wasn't boohoo crying. The tears was coming. My face was normal. But I'm sitting here at attention, breathing like, and the tears just rolling. And I don't know what she said after that, but something just had me like turn around and walk off. And I walked into the back of the room, and it was all them girls sitting there watching me too, because they was like looking like, what the frick about happened? Some of them was even looking all justified and happy that this lady was freaking berating me and whatnot. But I walked off to the back of the room, and as I'm walking off, I'm tearing up all they stuff. I'm tossing foot lockers like I'm a drill instructor. I'm tossing everything, flipping motherfucking everything. I go into the back where the little laundry, the washroom where we do our laundry. I'm flipping anything I can flip, I'm flipping. If I can break it, I'm breaking it. Because at that point, I wanted to hurt that lady so bad that the whole time I'm sitting here looking at her going, crying, I'm envisioning all the ways that I'm ripping this lady apart. And that's why I said, it's by the grace of God that I sit here a free woman with an honorable discharge, with not one, not two, but 3 degrees that I got utilizing my GI Bill for free. You hear me? Because it was God that made me walk off and go tear up everything in my path but a human. Nobody but God. Because as I'm tearing all this stuff up, I even remember looking at every single one of them hoes that I wanted to snatch up. Now they all intimidated looking. Now they all scared. Oh. I'm tearing everything up. I lied. The lady, the drill instructor, she was like, she said all this stuff. I'm standing there envisioning her. I fast forward, y'all. I'm standing there envisioning tearing this lady up. And then after she said her little bit, she walked off, went into the room. And that's when Stuart, is kind of like they switch positions. She now getting all up in my face, tapping me on my chest like this. Spitting all up in my face, trying to play tough and all this other stuff. And that's when I started envisioning it with her too. And then that's when I turned away, stormed off, and then I was like a storm, just tearing up everything in my motherfucking path except humans. If I could flip the bed over, that bed was getting flipped. If the motherfucking metal wouldn't flip, I'm flipping the mattresses and all that stuff. You messing up all y'all little blankets, fold, these little corner squares, all that, flipping all this, messing everything up. And then that's when by the time I got to the washroom, tore that stuff up, I just sat back there and I cried. Not boohoo cry. It looked, well, to me it felt like boohoo cry because the tears wouldn't stop. But I wasn't like, it's just the tears is flowing, and I'm just like, bro, I want to get up out of here. I hate it here, but I'm stuck here. And I'll never forget just sitting in there, just crying after I done tore everything up. And I want to say it was like our captain or something. They always got to call this captain when strange things happen, because I noticed that the tone when they talking to you, it only gets nice when they think you're a nutcase. And so I don't really remember if anybody talked to me after that. But I remember the senior drill instructor disappeared, and then she came back out and she announced to everybody out there, I'm still inside the washroom. And I started like fixing stuff up, because I'm like, at this point I'm like starting to calm down a little bit. It was some time passing, probably about an hour at least, because I feel like once that hour comes, you get a little chance to sit, breathe, think things through. It started to calm down. So I'm starting to like trying to clean up what I done messed up a little bit. And I see Staff Sergeant Soper comes into the little squad bay, and she announced to everybody, everyone leave Grayson alone. And then I saw her when she spoke to the other drill instructors, and so I'm assuming she must have told them, like, don't even deal with me for the rest of the day. You know, give me some time, because ain't nobody bothering me for the rest of the day. Like, the rest of that day, I was walking around freely doing whatever the freak I wanted to. I could walk from the bathroom, go pee, ain't had to ask nobody. I could go do my laundry if I wanted to, ain't had to ask nobody. I just couldn't leave the squad bay type of thing, but I could walk around freely in the squad bay without having to ask anybody. I could open up my Foot Locker, write a letter home and stuff. So, yeah. But that's just like here, when you get some bad news, or they see you they think you about to flip out and you're gonna be a danger to maybe yourself and others, they give you time to yourself. Whether they seclude you, the military is just like the carceral system. So it was interesting to see. It's like when I hear all these stories about they talking about they're stripped of their humanity, and they try to, you know, rid them of their self, their individual. It always gives me flashbacks to the Marine Corps, because it's like that's how it was in the Marine Corps. They even tell you, you are no longer your own person. You are the property of the U.S. government. They reiterated over and over and over that you have no rights that the average citizen has back at home in the civilian sector. Which is very like visible if you know anybody who goes through the uniform military, the UCMJ, I forget what they call it, but when you go through their military, or the military judicial system, that's the treatment is just the same out here. It's just you don't have no rights. You ain't got none. It's like getting locked up in a federal prison and nobody knows about it. People don't even realize when you get in trouble and you go to the brig, which the brig is like the military jail, you can be sitting in there for 5 years, right? 5+ years, and your term was supposed to end like 2 years ago, because you done finished your 4 years, but you still going. And then you don't even realize that your time didn't keep going. It's like it went on pause. So technically you ain't finished your time, but you still there doing time. You see what I'm saying? That's like them people that they think they about to, they think they about to go to prison for maybe 8 years, and then turn out to be they was stuck in there for 15 or something. Because it's one of them forgotten type of thing. They just gonna suck you and use you for labor. They ain't paying you nothing. The same thing with people who getting medically set, people who getting kicked out, period, whether it's drinking problem, what have you. When I was in MOS training, majority of the people that was teaching us at the MOS school were what they considered like problem Marines. They were Marines, every single one of them were getting kicked out, processed out, whether it was going to be a dishonorable discharge or other than honorable discharge. They was getting kicked the freak out. Then it's like, well, how long was you supposed to be here? They was like, I only signed up for 1 term. How long you been here? I've been here 7 years. Your term ended forever ago. Oh no. When you get processed out, it's like you get a whole new label. You get a whole new categorical label. So it's not the equivalent as an active duty military person that is trying to finish out they little 4 years or whatever. Or if you Navy and Navy corpsman, your one term is 5. It ain't like that. This is on some, oh, we processing you out? Okay, well, we gonna drag this out as long as possible. And then get in labor. Based on the label that you have, you can be, we look at you, I see you got the same rank as me. E3 or E4 or E5, E6, E7. But you here getting processed out. So 9 times out of 10, because of that label, that categorical label that you done receive now in this kick out status, you ain't even getting paid the same as active duty E3, E4, E5, E6, E7, but you still giving your body in labor to this institution. Sounds like prison, don't it? Sounds like the carceral system, don't it? Jail, don't it? That's why I tell people, it's the same. I remember when I fell into this depression. I was like, I hated everything that I've endured from boot camp to this moment now. I'm at MOS school. I'm like, I'm right next to a pizza place, a Cinnabon, and a Burger King. I heard of stories of people saying like, get out, get kicked out. This is before I even know that the kick out ain't what it is. Like, you know, and then I was told like, yeah, you get to stay longer, but it didn't register. I was like, I want to get out. I don't care. I want to get out. And I remember hearing stories of this girl back home. She went into the military. Some girl I went to church with, she supposedly went into the military. She lost her mess because she couldn't handle being in the army either. So it's rumored that she ate her doo-doo to get kicked out. And I had a cousin that did something nuts too. I think he did something to fake that he was crazy or something. I don't know if he ate doo-doo, but he did something to fake that he was crazy. And I was like, well, I can't fake crazy. I can't eat doo-doo because like when it comes to smells, I'm sensitive to smells. Like how I'm gonna put something funky in my mouth? Like it's not gonna work out for me. I can't eat doo-doo. And I can't pretend crazy because how do I even do that? I don't know what that looks like. So I was like, well, I know the Marine Corps hates fat people and they're very vanity based, so I'm just gonna get fat and they'll kick me out. So I started eating Burger King, Pizza Hut, and Cinnabon every day, from pepperoni pizza to that motherfucking that pasta when they first came up with that chicken Alfredo pasta, to the motherfucking the Cinnabon, to the chocolate pie, Hershey pie at Burger King, all that. Got fat as freak. Got out. I got out of boot camp probably about 155 pounds. I probably was closer to 150. But at this point, I'm like 200 pounds, approaching 200 pounds. I gained some weight. And I'm thinking I'm about to get kicked out. They was like, oh, you don't get kicked out here. If you get kicked out, they're going to start processing you out once you get to your next duty station. So we're still going to give you your orders to your next duty station. I'm like, damn, they give me my orders. I get to Okinawa, Japan. I meet this girl, we're going to call her Y. This is when I started to also see the games that they play. They pitting you up against each other. Why? Motherfreaking, I won't put her business out there because I feel bad for her, because she was one of them like very trauma-filled girls that the whole time I was in the military, I was fearful that she would kill herself, because that's how like traumatized she was. And I ain't trying to rehash nothing, you know what I'm saying? So anyways, this girl, she had it in her mind. She was like, I'm gonna retire, you know, I'm gonna do 20 years and retire. So she was trying to turn a new leaf, trying to be all squared away, but she kept getting in trouble for stupid stuff. Like she went and got piercings and showed everybody and their mama, and then niggas started snitching. And when she did that and I heard she got in trouble, I was like, oh yeah, let me take my piercings out before it gets to me, because I was like, people be snitching. So I'm not thinking nothing of me being fat type thing, but you know, I noticed nobody is snatching me up for being fat. So I'm like, okay, whatever. But why get snatched up for being fat? She, like me, you know, She passed her PFTs or CFTs. She actually was trying to excel. You know, I think she got sharpshooter at one time, maybe expert at rifle call. She was like trying to do what she can to stick around. But she got hemmed up for being fat. And the crazy part about it is that, to me, it wasn't necessarily she was fat. She was a chunky girl, a little chunky. Like, there was some pudge. It was, for me, it was the too small clothes. It's like you wearing these super tight, you know, cami pants and this super tight cami shirt, and most of your weight is up here, it's not down here. And you know how vain this world is, how vain society is. So it's obvious they're gonna say something. That's when I started to realize maybe that's why they ain't saying nothing to me, because I am heavy, but my heaviness is, you know, it's nice to look upon. Hers isn't, because her heaviness was in this midsection. She had no butt. She was built like ground beef that's in them little squeeze bag tube things. So they hemmed her up because she's like, I'm not even overweight. And they was like, we know you're not overweight, but you look overweight in uniform. And it's because she kept wearing too small stuff, trying to attract attention. Stupid. Stupid idea. Got him to freak up. So she got him to freak up, threw me under the bus. Well, how y'all getting me talking about I'm overweight because I look overweight in uniform, but Grayson actually is overweight? So that's what got me under the flag. They was like, they told him like, well, Grayson don't look overweight. And they was like, yeah, but she is. Then I'm just thinking to myself, it's a good thing I took out my motherfucking piercings. You know, she's this motherfucking snitch. And then next thing you know, I ended up on the BCP program. And as I'm on the BCP program, that's when I met Sergeant Weems. And I'm so glad that I met this lady, because she's the one that really, really put me onto life and enlightened me to the point that a lot of the stuff that she taught me in the military at 18, 19 years old, I still carry and do to this day at 32 going on 33. Like, making sure that I am very knowledgeable and educated on every aspect in whatever regard, because you're gonna have people that try to play on your ignorance, especially as a black woman. And that's the talk she always gave me. She said you gotta know everything from the uniform code to Marine Corps orders to the laws that govern us. You should get familiar with even like the uniform crime, the UCMJ. I forget what it stands for, but she was telling me you should get knowledgeable here. She even told me about, I think it was called the TAPS program. I forget what it was called, but it was this program in the military that you could literally pursue higher education, and it was not using your GI Bill. So I literally was getting free education while I was in there that the government was paying for. And then when I got out, I still had that same amount that they advertised in the beginning. What was it, like $60,000+ that I could use for my GI Bill? You see what I'm saying? That's why they stopped that. And they started, if you're gonna do college inside the military, it's gonna count towards your GI Bill. So when you get out, you're gonna have less money. That's not how it was when I was in. So she was putting me onto all this stuff. She even told me, she really put me on. She was like, Tara, well, she said Grayson because we went by last names, but she was like, they're not gonna kick you out, you know, per se, because you're fat. Like, they'll process you out, but they will get their time from you. She says, so you could either lose the weight and do your 4 years, just, you know, make sure you pass, do everything you need to do, that way you look good on paper so you can get out. Or you can do what you're trying to do now and get processed out, because she said they'll process you out, but then you'll end up going from sitting here for 4 years to sitting here to 4+ years, because they don't always immediately process people out. They hold them and they get labor out of you. They send you around, and now you working, and then you working for less money than you were when you were active duty before they put that label on you for processing you out. So now you the same rank as that corporal over there, but that corporal making more money than you because they ain't getting processed out. You have that label for process out. She told me, she was like, I'm overweight. She was like, I've been making it by taping. She was like, for now, you could do the taping. And I made taping. So that's how I ended up avoiding ever being put on the BCP program, because I always made taping. Because like I said, they don't really care about you being fat. It's about if it messes up your physical fitness level. Like if you still are able to train, they don't care. If you still look good in uniform, they don't care. It's when it starts to, you know, affect you negatively that they start to care. So it ultimately negatively affect them. But that's why I say, but she snitched on me, and that lady put me on to knowledge that I didn't even know. And that's when I changed my whole thing. I was like, I gotta lose all this weight. I shed all that weight, and I've kept it off since. Like, I got fat again when I got out in 2015. I got up to 220, because I feel like that's normal when you get out. But I've been going up and down between I'll say about 168 and 200 for at least since 2015. I've been perfectly fine with keeping the weight off, you know, looking slim, looking good. I told you, tall and slender with a little thick on it. But they put you against each other. They tell. And then I had a chief warrant officer. People don't really realize it's bad. The chief warrant officer. This is how I'm telling you, the mind games. So they put me in dispatching, and this is before I got sent to S4. This is before I got any NJPs or anything. They sent me to dispatching. They trained me up. I was told, this is how you do it. You know, if you want some rest, you can go up there. There's a cot. They literally told me you could do this. So I did everything as I've been taught. It's the first time I'm by myself, and I'm supposed to train somebody else. This girl named McAllister. I train her. I tell her, show her all the stuff. It's so easy. And then I go upstairs and go to sleep. Had my alarm set. I come down. I asked her, like, hey, what's up? Anything you need to tell me or whatever? She's like, no, everything good. She told me about whatever she did, dispatch, blah, blah, blah. So I'm thinking like, okay, smooth day. Later on that day, I come across Staff Sergeant Hessel. Staff Sergeant Hessel is a black man. And he's one of them black men that is evident that he got picked on as a kid. Like, he just looked like one of them weird dweebs that just, you probably walked up to him and mushed him or something. Like, because when I seen him, you know, I was a little bullied a little bit for a short stint. And he looked like the exact, you know what I'm saying, the prime recipient of my motherfucking head mushing. So, just dweeb. But he had those, like, power trips where it's like he's used to being a nobody, being picked on. So, now he want to usurp authority over junior Marines. Okay. So he's talking to me, and I'm talking to him like this with my hands on my hip. Mind you, I'm not thinking nothing of it. Because this is how I talk to niggas that I don't respect. Like, our chief warrant officer, I never even, well, I won't say never. I didn't always stand at attention or anything, or parade rest for him. Like, I don't know if I had my hand on my hip, but there was times where I talked to him like this. There was times where I had, like, I'll stand there and I'll be like standing like this. But this staff sergeant, he took me standing like this, standing like this, standing like this. He took any and everything as like, oh, that's disrespect. Even though these people like to play these games. One moment, oh, we cool, we're lax, I'm lenient. And the next moment they yank it up. You ain't supposed to be doing none of this stuff with me. Ah, psychos, man. And then it didn't help that we Garrison Marines. Garrison Marines is different than Field Marines. Garrison Marines, they got time for FF games because they ain't got nothing else to do. Then you got a bunch of wannabe, you know, infantry grunts. So now they want to make the ignorant, you know, the people that's new like me that come in, they want to make you think like, oh yeah, I'm a hard fighter, you know, I'm a hard charger, I'm a fighter, all this other stuff. Niggas ain't do squat, they ain't never deploy, you know, ain't never been in combat. Probably got an NJP just like me for disrespects to the staff NCO. But they lie. And then they'll terrorize you, haze you and everything. So this nigga freaking talking to me, and I'm talking with my hands on my hip, and he get mad. You're talking to me with your hands on your hip. I'm gonna NJP you. So I'm like, okay, we'll see how that works out, because I had this Chief Warrant Officer Hill. This dude should have knew something was up. I started thinking that the dude was trying to groom me or something for the butt cheeks, because everybody hated me except this dude. I thought it was strange, but I was young, I was naive, I was stupid, you know. I didn't really have much experience to life. My dad always tell you ain't got no street knowledge. Y'all was sheltered. Well, thank you, nigga. You did it. So, but one thing I can say is, like, I paid attention to, you know, what my parents told us, you know, watch people, and this is how certain people move, and you can pick up on this, that, and third. And so I would take what I hear from other people. So I would watch, and that's one thing I was very, very good at when I was young, being observant, because when you quiet, that's one of the greatest skills you end up developing. Observation. You just analyze everything. You just look at everything. And so I just used to observe, take in a bunch of information. I didn't know how to process it, you know, how to describe what was happening, but I seen it. And I have great memory, so it was just storing. It was like a little storage block. But anyways, so I have this Chief on Officer Hill. This dude, I slapped my corporal. This dude told me to shut up. I slapped that nigga. Pow! Like this is how much of a bad A that I was going for at this time. Like, at this time, I was already known for knocking niggas out, busting them in the face, causing them to bleed and stuff. Like, I had a dude in Marine Corps combat training. He snitched on me, and the dude that he snitched me to, our sergeant, he saw the dude and heard him call me the B word, and he also saw me when I three-pieced that nigga. And he was like, and you got exactly what you deserve. You sitting here really crying to me about a female hitting you? And that's usually how it went. Every time I hit a dude, that's what happened. You a whole man, you crying? Remember when I punched this white boy because I thought he called me the B word, punched him clean in his mouth. He told his people, they got back to my Chief Warrant Officer, and he just laughed. I ain't get in no trouble. A lot of the times, it would get back to him, oh, she was talking back, she hit this person. Nothing. If anything, he'll just laugh. He'll ask me, Grayson, did that happen? And I'll be like, yes, sir. And he'll just laugh and walk off. But he never reprimanded me or anything like that. He even put me in leadership roles. He would tell me, like, hey, take, you know, the girl that snitched on me about my uniform, he's like, take her under her wing and teach her how to speak. She don't know how to talk, how to speak. She talks like she uneducated or something. And you could tell she was one of them poor white girls. And then she was from, like, Norfolk, Virginia or something. And from my understanding, it's pretty poor there. The education ain't that great, you know? And I thought it was crazy that this nigga sitting here telling me, a black girl, to sit here and teach this white girl how to talk. It's like, I don't think nothing wrong with how she talk. Like, I understand her perfectly. And if anything, I feel like I talk, you know, I feel like I spoke worse than her, but I don't, it's the mind games. It's the mind games just playing you against each other. Because everybody used to see, and I used to hear people mumble, oh, Grayson, she got it good with Serve. Like, she over here hitting on NCOs, and she could disrespect staff NCOs and nothing comes from it. So fast forward that day that I did the dispatching. This is why I tell y'all it's so similar. The military and the carceral system, they are the same. Total institutions. So later that day, I don't even know what the freak happened, but my Chief Warrant Officer called me into office, and he was like, Grayson, did you fall asleep while dispatching? And mind you, so much time had went by. So much time had went by. And yeah, so Anyways, he asked me, he's like, so did you dispatch, or did you fall asleep during dispatch? And I'm like, not really paying attention to what he asked me. I just said, I'm like, no. Because I'm like, dude, what are you talking about? I've been dispatching. And then he was like, really? And then he was like, you know what? Staff Sergeant Hessel came to me and he told me that, that he wanted to NJP you for disrespect for staff, or he wanted to NJP you for disrespect to a staff NCO. And because you lied to me, I'm gonna let him do it. And this is how he knew I was lying to him, right? So before he even said it, he was like, oh, really? And I was like, yeah. So he's like, McAllister, the same girl that I was motherfreaking training. And I was like, motherfreaker. So she walks over and he's like, so is it true that Grayson fell asleep and left you to dispatch, or were you lying? So immediately I'm like, here go the mind games. Here go him pitting us up against each other, because it's like, why would you even make it be known to me that she was the one that told you? Like, why'd you even say it like that? Now I know she snitched. Because at first I was already like this. Like, what the fuck happened? It's just been me and McAllister. Did she tell on me? But now it's evident, because she said, no, sir, I didn't lie to you. She did fall asleep and left me to dispatch. So not only did he get her to snitch, but he made me aware that she was the snitch. And so I was like, in my head, I'm just like, this is nuts. And then that's when he said, he was like, and because you lied to me, I'm gonna let Staff Sergeant Hessel NJP you. He said, I wanna have him battalion NJP you, because I got pulled with Colonel Kuhn, who at the time was our battalion commanding officer. So he was literally boasting and bragging to me about this pool that he had with Colonel Kuhn and how they were golf buddies and all this other stuff. And he said I could go to him and tell him, you know, I want you to get battalion NJP, but just so you could see that I'm serious. I ain't even gonna battalion NJP you, I'm a company NJP you. And so I got a company NJP instead of through him. At the time we didn't even have no officer. Our acting officer was like the first lieutenant, and his name is Mullins. And then it's crazy because he later on got caught up with committing adultery and, if I'm not mistaken, pedophilia, for like linking up with young girls, like teenage, underage, you know, minors. So it's crazy. The same thing with our commanding officer, company commanding. A lot of them people that I was connected to was involved in some wild stuff. I wouldn't be surprised if Anthony Hill, if that motherfucking Chief Warrant Officer Hill dude wasn't involved in some wild stuff, because that dude, he always gave sinister. That's why I never liked him. But I was content with the fact that I'm like, okay, well, he's the one dude that don't have a problem with me and don't try to make my life miserable, even though he has the ability to. And now this is when he starts, because he has the power in the pool. There's this voluntary little platoon thing that came up. It was like, it was for garrison Marines to pretend and play and feel like, you know, deploying military people that get to, you know, do all that fun training, like they might go to combat and all this wild stuff, right? And so it was voluntary. You got to volunteer. This nigga literally involuntarily added me and like 2 other people just because he didn't like us. The equivalence to what guards do to inmates. You see what I'm saying? And so to me, it's nuts, motherfreaking nuts, that stuff like this happens, you know? I don't understand it. I really don't. Because, like I said, at the end of the day, It's the mind games. It's playing you against each other. Is abuse of power. You know. In addition to the fact that my wife's roommate, which we were dating at the time, we were girlfriends. She had this roommate. That's why I tell you, you gotta watch people that's always trying to come off like complimenting you and stuff. This mother freaking. She used to, oh, I'm so jealous of you and Franco's relationship. I can't get a stable boyfriend. And she, when I tell you, she was running dude after dude after from. She rarely messed with E3s, even though she was an E3. They was usually E4 and higher. But every now and then you see some E3s coming there. And she was just funneling through these people. But she snitched on us for being in each other's room. And the crazy part about it is, like, same sex could be in each other's rooms. You just had to be out at a certain hour. Opposite sex couldn't even be in each other's rooms, period, based on the rules. But everybody knew that people opposite sex, even everybody in my platoon, was sleeping with one another. You know, one thing and another. Male, female, everybody was in everybody's room. Even the girl who snitched on us, everybody knew her as a hoe. So it's like, how a hoe gonna sit here and tell you that I'm staying in somebody's room when she doesn't, you know? So, but she snitched to her, I think it was her master sergeant, or was it her master guns? I forget what it was, but it was one of the two. She snitched to him. He went to my chief warrant officer. This nigga was, now this one I think is what really got under him, because that's why I started to think that maybe dude had a thing, like some weird little thing. Because as soon as he heard that me and my wife was dating, he did everything in his power to separate us, from putting me on security platoon to when we was getting ready to PCS. We were asking, because we knew that he had the ability to do so. He was helping other people with, and we were trying to get stationed together, and this nigga intentionally sent her to 9th Com in Camp Pendleton, and then sent me to 1st Med Battalion, a whole naval base, or excuse me, a whole naval unit on a Marine Corps base. It was nasty work, and we was on two different sides of the thing, and her people was grungily nasty, from higher rank raping junior Marines to everything. And so that whole experience was like crazy, where my wife was constantly going through people flirting with her, but moving slow to help, you know, sign off her paper so she could EAS and get out. It was strange. Just like the carceral system. They go through all types of deception, and they go through all types of loops to get you in there. I mean, even the predatory act of popping up at high schools to solicit minors, because most of the people in the high school ain't no 18 and up. Most of them people in high school is 17 and under. And these niggas are soliciting children to join the military, and you got grown men. And I had a dude, staff sergeant, oh, I couldn't stand that dude. His name is slipping me right now, but it's gonna come to me. But he was my mother freaking recruit, and that nigga gave pedophile pervert. And the thing that really took me was that I'm a part of the Puli program, so I'm training, you know, to actually go off to be in the military, right? And this is before they even have you sign the document. He had took us to some park and had us play flag football. They throw this high old thing. I jump up to catch it. This girl clipped my feet, and when I came down, I landed on my shoulder. Staff Sergeant Towers. That is that raggedy nigga name. And he also black. And this dude, I dislocated my shoulder, and I told him, like, yo, I dislocated my shoulder. I need to call my parents. He's like, no, it's okay. I'm going to take you home. You know, you just got to wait. This nigga had me sit there for the remaining hour and some change for them to finish out their little Puli training before he finally took me home. Then when he took me home, thankfully my parents had, you know, health insurance on me. So they took me to the hospital to get checked out. But this is stuff that when you try to say this is service connected, they don't want to hear no parts of it, even though it happened at the hands of the military. And that's like in the carceral system. People get injured all the time. Treatment is delayed, sometimes never even given. make it make sense. This is why I say the military and the carceral system is the same, but this is stuff that people won't talk about. People won't talk about how the Lavina Johnsons and the Vanessa Guillens is regular occurring instances where people are being murdered in the field. See, you are more likely, like I said earlier, to be murdered in the field than you are to be murdered in garrison, because in garrison there's way too much attention to you. You're closer to civilization. In the field, you are far from civilization. You don't even have the means to contact your family on a regular basis. So if you murdered in the field, by the time it gets to your family, it will be a while. The same thing in the carceral system. Out of sight, out of mind. An instance in the military, I was in the Philippines. My home unit was actually in the Philippines because my wife was there alongside others from my unit. But I was there with security platoon, that same volunteer, thing, but I got put on involuntarily. And we get mixed in with some grunts, infantry dudes. And anybody know anything about grunts, infantry dudes? They nasty. They like the niggas that work in the sewage that pick the doo-doo out of the water and the dirty tampons and pads out of the water and trying to purify the water so it could become potable for people again. Like, they the ones cleaning out the water. Every time you see them, they always dirty. Like...